Welcome to Score. I'm Jodi.
And I'm Freya. We're a brand new podcast devoted to all things women's sports.
Each week we'll be putting a spotlight on a brand new sport and bringing in some special guests to explain their sporting fields.
But first, a little bit about us. I say I'm a self-professed cricket expert. I know a little bit about cricket. I've been playing for over 10 years now, and I'm a huge fan of the Manchester Originals, the 100, and the England women's cricket team. I aspire to be like Kate Cross and Alex Hartley because they have their own podcast, but also the fact that they're so relatable and they're so like working class cricket, because cricket is often mistaken for like this like private school sort of sport when it really isn't. So yeah.
I love the way you said, I know a little bit about cricket. No, you don't. You know everything there is to know about cricket. Do not lie.
I can't say, I think I said on Keys the other week, I was like, oh, I'm a self-professed cricket expert. I'm not really, but
Yeah,
just know a little bit about cricket. Yeah.
So for reference, I know nothing. Well, I know what the 100 is, and I think I've just learned what a T20 is, which is, for me, is pretty good. But I am a big football fan. Football is my life. I can't stress how much my life seems to revolve around every weekend's game of football. It's actually a problem at this point. But yeah, so I've been a football fan for probably since I came out of the womb, to not be dramatic. And I think about possibly the last 5 years has been me trying to like do more in football and sort of do more in football media and that sort of thing. But I was speaking to my mum about this the other week, and my mum was like, oh, unless it's the team I support, I'm not bothered about watching football. I've realised I'll watch anything. If there's a pitch and there's a ball on it, I will watch that game.
Yeah.
So whether it's bottom tier, non-league, League 2, League 1, Championship, Premier League, or WSL, whatever, I will watch it.
I think that's good though, because you've got to be open to those types of games. Like, I'm a big, like, I say I'm a cricket expert, but like I'm a big county and test despiser. I think they're both dying regions of the game that we just need to shove off. But then there is those moments where people are like, do you just like short format cricket? Because I'm a huge T20 fan. I love the 100. Obviously, the 100 is my number one. But we still need those longer formats, but they are dying in terms of like engagement and stuff. But some of our best players have come from there, e.g. Jimmy Anderson, Ben Stokes, people like Stuart Broad. They've all come from those areas of cricket. And yet, if they die out, who are going to be those upcoming players as well? So
I think with cricket, me as an outsider to the world of cricket, I've always thought of it as this really long match that goes on forever. It's quite confusing to understand from an outsider. But then I watched the 100 on the TV over the summer and I was like, maybe it's just me who needs that 100 balls counter to like work out where the game's going. But I think with the branding of the tournament and how well they seem to communicate it on TV or in the media for people that aren't cricket fans to understand, for me, I get that is short form cricket, isn't it? The 100.
yeah.
To me, that's the ideal way of getting into it, and I found it so interesting. And this year, I'm sure you're glad to hear this, I'm going to be on the 100, 100% watching it.
Love that. I bought my season ticket last week. I think it was probably one of the best moments of my life. And I do not exaggerate that, ladies and gentlemen. I think that in terms of, I know I've got something to look forward to. I just know I'm really excited for like this new season and what we're going to bring in terms of teams, because the draft is next week and everything, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But like, it's so exciting. And I think I'm really getting into women's football. Like, I know women's football is your number, number one, but like, I really like sort of the brand they're promoting for themselves. I think it's really good, and the fact that they're getting all these mainstream media behind them, I think it's brilliant.
Fantastic. I was saying to someone, I had a conversation yesterday about rugby, and I didn't realise this is quite naively, I didn't realise how I think women's football is in a fantastic place. I think it's got a fantastic amount of media coverage. It's moving up, but I think other sports are possibly not getting that and they're struggling a little bit. But I think women's football, is so fantastic where it is at the minute. And what sort of team do you think you'd go for? Because I guess, does Stockport women have a women's team?
We don't have a women's team, actually. So, yeah, I'm from Stockport originally, and Stockport County are getting quite far into, like, developments within the league as far as I know. Like, it's been the talk of the town, basically. But in terms of a women's team, I don't think we have a women's team that I know of.
It's really sad because there's so many. Stockport are in League 1, aren't they, in men's football?
Don't ask me. I really don't
Off
know.
the top of my head, they're towards the top of the third tier, which is massive. But there's a lot of clubs, particularly around the third and the second tier of men's football, that just don't have a women's team, and they have one. A lot of men's clubs have a women's team, but all they have is the name. So, for example, I could think of one is Huddersfield. They are just called Huddersfield Town Women's FC, but they're not affiliated with the club in any other way in terms of funding or anything like that. And I feel like that is sort of the problem when they do exist, but they're not sort of under the bigger sort of brands of the club.
I don't get that though, because if you're affiliated with the club and the brand, why are you not affiliated with the funding? Like, it's
a business. It should,
yeah,
at the end of the day,
it should all correlate into one thing. I don't personally get it. I think that's the problem with a lot of like women's sides in terms of not getting the backing or not getting the same funding. They're playing the same game. The only difference is the gender. I don't really get it because they're playing just as well. My dad was saying that Manchester United women's are playing the same way that Man United men's were playing in the 90s. They're bringing in this like golden age of football, and it's exciting to watch. Whereas he said watching the Man United men's, and he's a United fan. Yeah, he was saying they're not as developed or not as like exciting as the women's squad are.
I would say for me at the moment in the WSL, I feel like we're going on such a tangent, but I love it. Let's just see whatever we can make out of this. But in the WSL, for me, Manchester United are one of the most exciting clubs to watch, and it really, really pains me to say that because long-standing beef with Man United. Yeah. But the team they have built around some of them key players like Lionesses Ella Toone, Millie Turner, they've brought in Fallon Turner-Joyce, because obviously Mary Earps, we all know Mary Earps.
Merps, I love her.
We love Merps. She left last summer and it was like, oh, they're not going to fill that void. Fallon Turner-Joyce steps up, the American international. She's incredible. I think she's got the most clean sheets in the league, so she's kept the most clean sheets. She's conceded the least goals in matches. I think they're just such an exciting club to watch. And what do you reckon? You've got to be City or United women, and haven't you?
Yeah, I think being from Manchester, there's like a strong football background. There is obviously in my world there is a strong cricket background as well, but that's because I'm involved with cricket. Whereas if you think of sports and you think of Manchester, it's either Man City or United. I have a bias because my dad's a Man United fan, so I've obviously grown up around that sort of Man United scene, but I think Man United women's really stand out to me in terms of they had those like superstars. Like I love Ella Toone. I think she's got good personality. She's a good player. Like she's the whole package, really.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we've got to go to a Man United women's match because I love on the pitch. I absolutely love watching them this season. They've been incredible. So that's definitely one we'll have to put in. For some reason, I didn't realise your dad was a Man United fan, but I reckon I could see you going down the Man City route for some reason.
I think it's like when we were kids, we joked that like, oh, we're Man City fans because like we're trying to annoy him. Yeah, wind him up sort of thing. But like I never really got into like Man City. I wasn't into Man United, but like I sort of come from that area. So yeah. But it's good. It's that's sort of a little bit about us and a little bit of a tangent about us. But we also have it where every week we'll be delving into the biggest sports stories in women's sports. So here's your top stories for this week. In cricket, the pay gap was released by the 100 and it's widened from £75,000 to £135,000. What do you think about this, Jodie?
I think it's good that... No, okay, hang on, stop, roll back.
Oh, you think it's good?
No. I think it's great that cricket players are getting paid more if they are generating revenue for things like the 100. But the fact that for some reason the gap's increased, even though wages have increased, is just like, okay, so it's like one step forward, three steps back.
Oh, it's always been like that. I think not a lot of people talk about it in terms of it being that sort of one step forward, three steps back mentality. But it's always been like that. And I'm not gonna say that just because I'm a woman and just because like I support the women's side. Yeah. Like undoubtedly it is that. And this week has proven with the draft picks and with these released figures, like the men's pay, the top ranging pay for the men's, for the top players, they went up by 60%, and the women's, only went up by 20%. Like, there's clearly something wrong there.
I know, because I feel like with pay gaps in sport, it's obviously, like, for example, I'm bringing this back to football for a sec. Men's and women's players aren't going to be paid the same. It's not going to happen, is it, in the WSL and the Premier League because of the revenue differences. But it doesn't mean they should still be paid under what they should be paid. So in the 100, that gap just should not be as big, should it, at all?
No, I don't think it should be big. But the PCA have released their annual Women's Impact Report. So they do this every year before International Women's Day on the 8th of March. And they said that considering the tournament is marketed equally amongst the men's and women's squads, with the two teams, one club mantra, which is to be applauded, it's more than disappointing to see the gender pay gap increase. So there are people in authoritative positions within the cricket world or within the sports world that clearly aren't happy with this. And I know that England captain Heather Knight, who also plays in the 100, has said something along the lines of that she wasn't happy either, and the fact that we're wanting more revenue. There was a huge push on revenue to come into the 100 last summer, and we've had all this revenue come in. To then still have this gap, it doesn't make sense. Like, where's the money going? In terms of that, it's clearly going more towards
income,
one side than the other, and that shouldn't be the case, really.
I think when you've had that thing like a one club mantra, and you've got this all in theory idea of, oh yeah, it's what, well, obviously it is happening, but we're like, yeah, right, we want to have a one club mentality. We want to sort of bring this competition equally for the men and the women. And then things like this are happening behind the scenes of the sport of what happens on the cricket field. It's almost like, it's confusing, isn't it? Because you're saying one thing and then another thing's happening. So you're sort of like, okay, so it's not lining up with the ethos that you want to sort of create.
No, absolutely not. I think if they were to put out an ethos that was equal and everything, you'd have more people interested. Because I spoke to someone who's not very interested in cricket about this, and he was like, well, they're going to put money and backing behind the teams that kind of people are wanting to see. But with the 100, there's no difference in what you're seeing. The unique ability about the 100 is that your £25 ticket gets you into both games.
That's unreal, by the way. I only found this out today. Yeah.
They're all double headers, meaning that if you're going to make your money's worth, you might as well go and see the women players. And I've been watching the 100 since it come out, and we've only been going physically to games for the last 3 years. And it's a really nice day out. We go down in the morning, get settled and everything, bring a packed lunch, and it's just where you're getting your money's worth, and you're getting to see some quality players that are either international players or England players that come down and actually make a good game out of it.
What's the I'm all for like the idea of a double header game. I think it's great. It's a long day out. Everyone has fun. You have your snacks, like you said. You have a chill out in the stands. Everyone comes together. It's brilliant. And I think it's a great way as well to get fans that are normally just into the men's game to go, oh yeah, go on. And it's the same club. I will go and watch the women's team as well. What's the attendance sort of? Is it sort of different between the two? Is there a bit of a gap? Or
it's frankly different. I don't know figures, so I'm not going to say point blank figures. But from observing it, you can go to the women's game in the morning, and even in the first innings, you'll see like half, not even half, like maybe a quarter of the stadium filled, and then slowly as the men's time starts to approach or the end of the game comes, you'll see this stadium get packed. And it happened last year where we had records in attendance break for 2 of the games that I went to at Old Trafford. But that was towards the end of the women's game. So clearly it's not breaking records for the women's game. It is people just showing up for that men's game.
Yeah, see, that's really difficult, isn't it? Because I think that's possibly the con of it being a double-header game, is that it's not giving the women a chance to build their own attendance almost if people are just coming in to sort of get settled for the men's game to then start.
Yeah, it's an ongoing issue, I think, but it's one that hopefully things like the PCA or the EBC are going to maybe address in the following years.
It's got pros and cons, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I've educated you on cricket. What's happening in the world of football?
Let's switch it round.
Let's go to football.
So in football, this to me, it sends shivers down my spine as an English football fan, right? And I'm sure every other EFL, whatever fan will agree with me on this. So the women's professional leagues have, I don't even know where it's come from, if it's been a suggestion, if it's been an idea. They've said there's no concrete plans, but I don't like it. They've said about in the WSL, which is the top flight of women's football, also the WPL also run the championship as well. So the top 2 leagues in English women's football are professional. Some of the lower tiers clubs are. It's a bit of a disparity, but 1 and 2 are professional. They said about potentially scrapping, or they said temporary, but I don't know how temporary it would be if they get rid of relegation. So that would basically mean that they'd have clubs come into the WSL that have won the league below, and then they'd just stay there to grow the league, which...
It doesn't sound like it's going to get any, from an outside perspective, it doesn't sound like there's any progression. Like, it's not competitive. If no one's losing out, then...
Yeah, it's wild to me because... I just don't understand, because the whole jeopardy, of when you're a club towards the bottom of the table is surviving relegation, and someone that's watched a club battle relegation, staying up in the league is probably, actually, I've never seen my club won the league, so I can't comment. But I imagine it's as good as win the league, staying up.
I imagine it's really good.
I imagine it's great. But that feeling of staying up and knowing that you've proper fought for it, and in a weird way, the club sort of comes together when you're battling tough times, even if like it is difficult on the pitch. But they're on about taking this away in terms of increasing the league and increasing the sponsorship. And will it give? I think the idea is that it might give clubs a bit more confidence in backing their women's teams if they know that they're not going to drop down a league. But to me, that's not the way to do it. To me, it's just crazy. And I feel like the format, the WSL does need to be expanded, but I don't think that's the way to do it. I think it should be like maybe 2 up, 1 down.
Yeah, that sounds
just
more
for a while.
That sounds more like stable, and it makes the game more competitive. Because, in my opinion, if you're playing to not avoid relegation, yes, you play because you love the game. There's always going to be that element of it of sport, whether you love the game or whether you want to be competitive and you want to win. But there's got to be that competitive element. Otherwise, it's not entertaining to watch.
It's not as well. And I think the argument would be, at the minute, the clubs towards the bottom of the league, Aston Villa, Leicester, Crystal Palace.
Said with regret, Aston Villa.
Said with regret. These clubs towards the bottom, granted, there is always one team at the bottom of the WSL that does struggle and is sort of the 90% favourite to go down. So unfortunately this season that is Crystal Palace, because obviously they were promoted last season. They're going to struggle to establish themselves in that league. But then it's sort of like, if you take away this relegation, what do they have to fight for? Because they're some of these smaller clubs or clubs that don't have the same backing as the big teams like Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea. They're not going to have this to fight for at the top of the table to get European places or to win the league. So if you take that away, where's their sort of competitive spark coming from?
Yeah, you could almost say, like, what's the point in having a competition? Because, like, you're only going to have a winner.
Yeah.
Like, in a competition, in a balance, you need that winner and loser mentality in terms of, like, I need to fight for my place to be here. And, like, that's what everything in life is at the end of the day. So, like, if you don't have that, what's the point of having a competition, in my opinion?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think in men's football, it's such, like, an honour and, like, an aspiration to be in the Premier League. You're in the best of the best. You're playing the best of the best. Everyone wants that. And I feel like the WSL needs to be the same. Every club should strive to want to be in the WSL. And if we take away this sort of risk of getting relegated, what is the sort of jeopardy for them smaller teams to sort of fight for, especially towards the end of the season?
What do you think, like, obviously they're trying to solve this issue with scrapping relegation. What do you think, instead of scrapping it, what would you do, like, in that position? Do you have an answer?
In terms of expanding the league, I've heard ideas of, like, 2 get promoted from the Championship and 1 goes down, just to slowly expand that league. I think that could work as a temporary solution just to get us from 12 teams to possibly 20 like the Premier League has. But in terms of sponsorship and increasing that sort of realm, I think it's so difficult, because I saw an interview with the Leicester City women's manager the other week, and she was asked about what she thinks about this relegation scrapping idea. And she said, I think if it's going to bring more investment and more sponsorship into the game, I think it's a good idea. And to me, it's crazy that something as drastic as this is seen as the only way to get sponsorship and to get more investment. And it shouldn't be. People should be investing because they love the game and they want to see it push forward, not because we have to do something that fundamentally changes how the game's run.
Absolutely. I would have to agree. That's very well said as well. If
I'm
you
really
don't
proud
mind.
of that.
Yeah. No, you nailed that.
Get me in that boardroom and I'll explain why relegation can't go anywhere.
Yeah. Obviously, in our respective fields, we're really, like, into our cricket and our football. But what's good about this podcast is that we're going to have people on that, like, have more expertise in other areas, things like rugby, ice skating, hockey. Like, I'm so excited to learn about different stuff. Like, if you weren't like an expert or playing football, because obviously you play football, I play cricket. If you weren't doing that, what other sport do you think you'd be really good at?
That's such a good question. I love it. I'm so naive to other sports. I found this out yesterday. So I spent a day at Sale Sharks yesterday. Tell me why I'm converted into... not the mic then. Tell me why I'm converted into a rugby fan. I want to know everything about it, because I think if you love sport, you just love it in general. You love the whole... You love the clubs, you love the atmosphere, you love everything. And that's the same in every single sport. But in terms of which one I'd want to go and play and, like, being... I think probably rugby. I love a bit of tennis. I love cricket. I love the 100.
Oh, it's just nice to see. The influence it's Stockholm syndrome. You will hate it one day. I think that it's good. I'm, like, So my thing is, I saw challenges last year, and I've been obsessed with
love
it.
challenges.
So like tennis looks so appealing. I didn't go and play tennis. I heard that like that film kind of rose like interest in tennis, which I think is really cool. But I think tennis would be a good one. I like ice skating. I'm like weirdly okay at ice skating. Like I'm not going to say good because then it's going to be proved wrong.
Should we try it for a podcast?
Yeah, we'll go and do a little ice skating segment. No, I think that I'm okay at ice skating. So I think things like ice hockey would be really interesting. And I love the Mighty Ducks. So I can't for those contexts, the Mighty Ducks was a really popular like ice skating like film.
Can it be so for real? I laughed and I didn't know what it was.
No.
But I didn't want to look like a weirdo, so I just laughed to laugh along.
It was like it was big in the 90s, so like just showing my like pop culture era. I think like one I know I wouldn't be good at is netball because like I can't not move with the ball, and like netball you have to like swerve. Yeah,
I feel like moving with the ball when you play a different sport, and then I remember my PE teacher used to get so wound up with me playing netball because my what's it called, like reflex when I get the ball is to run, is to move. Netball you have to like. You have to put your feet down, don't you, and then like pivot.
Yeah.
And I find it so difficult, but I do like netball. I understand netball, I think. If I had to say a second sport that I would probably understand the most, it's probably netball.
Yeah, I think like I'm better at basketball, if I'm honest.
Love basketball.
I think the basketball is really cool, so yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Settle Her Score. Join us next time where we have more on the world of women's sport and some lovely friends joining us to talk about their favourite sports.
And make sure you follow our Instagram at settleherscore for more updates and some fun little reels we're going to be putting out in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, that's all we have time for. Bye.
Bye.